Good afternoon and welcome to Top Tips for Effective Finance Transformation with AccessPay, FastFour and Zego. I'd like to welcome you to our webinar, which is in our Financial Transformation Unlock series, or FTU, that you might have seen on LinkedIn. For those who haven't, we invite finance and treasury professionals to share their insights and value gained from experiences in all types of financial and treasury transformation. Just to introduce myself, my name's James Stockton. I'm the Head of Partner and Market Development here at AccessPay. I've been here at AccessPay just a little over 5 years, and I've seen huge developments not only in the AccessPay platform and product, but also the industry. And I'm gladly welcomed here today by Jurian from FastFour and Ben from Zego. So no further ado, Jurian, could you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, no, sure. Thank you, James. And thank you for inviting me to the session today. So my name is Jurian van Mannen, and I'm responsible for the sales of what we call expansion apps at Zone & Co. And before that, I had pretty much the same role at FastFour. And FastFour was acquired by Zone & Co. in January of this year. So if you look at us as a company, we started out as an implementation partner for Oracle NetSuite, which is a cloud ERP system. And while implementing that, we found some areas in the system where we thought, hey, this could be even better than it is. And the great thing about NetSuite is it also acts as a development platform, so you can develop apps for it. And that's what we did. So we developed a number of applications for NetSuite, all of them aimed to automate key financial processes around areas like banking, billing, and also AP automation. And we now have over 800 customers around the world using those solutions. A little bit about myself. So my background is also financial. I started as an accountant, got seduced by the dark side of the IT software when I got to work with NetSuite. Really liked that. Spent a couple of years implementing it as well. So helping financial teams grow and transform. And then I moved to sales. So now I get to talk to many companies each week that are either starting or in the middle of their financial transformation process. So I'm looking forward to discussing that topic today.
Fantastic, Jurian. By no means least, Ben.
Thank you, James. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm really excited to be here. My name is Ben Robson. I work for Zego. Zego is a commercial motor insurance provider that has customers ranging from entire fleets of commercial vehicles to self-employed taxi or food delivery drivers and riders. Some of the products we offer include pay-as-you-go hourly policies for delivery drivers, or commercial fleet policies we charge based on the miles or minutes driven. A bit about myself. I've been at Zego for 4 years. I'm a qualified chartered accountant, and I started my Zego journey doing everything from bank reconciliations to accounts payable, accounts receivable, as well as month-end reporting. As Zego has grown really rapidly, I've transitioned into a more technology-based role. So my title is now Systems Accountant, and I play a critical role in finance transformation at Zego. So as our company is growing and expanding, I'm helping to ensure that our financial systems are set up for scale.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ben. And a little bit more about AccessPay before we jump into it. So we're a global payments and cash management platform for those that don't know. And the reason why we are fantastically here with Zego and FastFour is FastFour are our partner, who are now Zone & Co, and Zego, one of our customers. So it's going to be great to get an insight into not only a consultant on what they see as the benefits of financial transformation, but also the corporates for you as well. So it's going to be a really exciting 20-25 minutes. Please feel free to add any comments or questions throughout the session. I'm monitoring them whilst I'm heading up this webinar, so I can either address them if they're relevant at the time during the discussions, or they'll be available during a Q&A at the end. The live stream that we're running right now will be available on demand, so please keep an eye on our LinkedIn channels over the next few days. So we'll be sharing those for those who aren't able to make it today, or once you've watched this and you feel like it's beneficial to one of your colleagues or friends, please feel free to share it. After the Q&A, there will be a quick recap of talking points and reminder of the on-demand. So you can reach out to Jurian or myself or even Ben via the LinkedIn if you do have any queries or further advice on your next financial transformation project. So let's get straight into it then, guys. So Jurian, you up first. So one of the talking points that I'd like to talk around is, what do we mean by financial transformation? It's such a broad subject title, and it can mean one in a million things. But in your experience and your day-to-day life, what are your customers typically looking to transform?
Yeah. So in my own words, if I look at sort of customers and projects that I've worked on, I've always seen that there's like a tipping point when financial transformation really becomes a necessity. So in the beginning, when the business starts, you see that the focus of the business is really on sort of go-to-market, building sales, and within that, finance is almost more like a supporting process. Of course, you need to pay your bills and you need to file your taxes each month, but it's only like when a company really finds product market fit, and experiences growth, and you see that the role of a finance department starts to change. Sometimes it also happens because an investor steps in, and other things become more important. So like data on how the business is doing becomes much more important. The role of the finance team and the CFO becomes much more strategical, much more forward-looking, and helping to make decisions for the future. And all of it becomes sort of, the need becomes more real time. So it's no longer sort of monthly financial reports, but all of a sudden we need real time dashboard to show us these things. And that changes the way a finance team has to operate. And it usually also changes needs for things like systems, needs for things like systems, for processes, also because of the growth. And you need more automation in place and able to handle that. And for me, that process and moving to that next level and looking for the new processes and the new systems to support that for me is the financial transformation process.
Fantastic, thank you, Jurian. And Ben, from your perspective, from a corporate outlook, how do you kind of see that? Because again, as I mentioned to Jurian, financial transformation can be a million and one things. But from your perspective, and when you embarked on this project, how did you see that?
Yeah, so sort of touching back on what Jurian said when it comes back to like sort of defining it, for me, it's about two key things, and that's increasing automation to improve the efficiency. So that might be you do something and it requires less staff now because you've transformed that process, or it just takes less time in general, or it's about like putting systems in place to adapt with growth and scale. So I'll tell you a bit of a story about maybe one of the examples for us as a business and like what we've done as we've gone on a journey from being a small startup company to a much larger sort of multinational entity now. So when I started around 4 years ago, we had around 50 employees, and we were just one legal entity like operating out of the UK. And at that time, we used a small business accounting system called Zero. Most people who are watching this might probably use Zero or know what it is, but it has a lot of like simple automation out of the box. So things like connecting with your bank to get bank feeds and doing bank reconciliations are all really easy to set up and use, and have a big marketplace that you can easily plug in lots of other apps as well. So things like scan and capture to help automate your accounts payable. So when we were small, we had all these things set up and it was quite easy, and we were reasonably efficient. But then we grew really rapidly. So over the space of a few years, we've expanded into Europe. We set up a lot of new legal entities. We've hired a lot more staff, and we outgrew Zero very quickly. So one of the key pain points for us was reporting. So we had to consolidate all of these different legal entities that we had in Zero, take that data and information out and put it in spreadsheets, and spend a lot of time at month end sort of like mashing it all together so that we could produce reports for our board and for our directors. And that became really time consuming as we continued to grow. So the system that we switched to was Oracle NetSuite. The real key benefit of that for us was that multi-entity reporting works out of the box. So you can do consolidation where you're you're putting all your entities together, and it's got like automated processes for that. It takes about 10 minutes as opposed to maybe 30 minutes to an hour like we were doing in Xero. And you can run your financial statements and see them at the different legal entities at any point in time. So you have access to a lot more live data. It also has a lot of like useful budgeting tools that we didn't really have in Xero. So you can do things like comparing your budgets to actuals. That just becomes a lot easier. So it saved us a lot of time now that we've moved to that system when it comes to reporting information. One of the key challenges, though, was that it's a lot more complex to set up. Some of the things just worked really well in Xero. A good example is bank connections and bank feeds. In Xero, it's just sort of like push a button and you're connected. With NetSuite, we had to work with Access Pay and FastFour to build a proper solution where we were plugged directly into our bank in the UK, which is Barclays, to allow us to replicate that same sort of seamless functionality that we had in Xero, where we're downloading bank statements on a daily basis. And we're actually still working with Access Pay and FastFour to look at automating some of our other banks in Europe as well. So going back to that original question, sort of like, what does finance transformation mean for me? At Zego, it's really been about adapting our financial processes for the rapid change that we've seen as we're a really fast-paced, growing technology company.
Brilliant. Thanks, Ben, and thanks, Jurian, for your insights around that. And I think just to add that from a payment solution provider, we see financial transformation in numerous different ways. So to your point, Ben, moving from Xero to NetSuite, we come across businesses who are wanting to then connect to their banks that we can help them with. We then look at companies who are wanting to consolidate the number of banks that they're working with from 10 to 5 due to costs and changes within their businesses if they've been acquired or if they've added new legal entities, but also to consolidate a number of their systems as well can be a huge transformation project. So they may be working with 4, 5, 6 different banking portals, and it's becoming a laborious manual task, and they're just wanting to consolidate into one platform. So there's many different areas as a business that we help with, the likes of FastFour helping us to connect to the likes of NetSuite as well, and then giving you the functionality that we've been able to bring to you as a business, Ben, which has been fantastic. So kind of swiftly moving on. So it's been said that once businesses have, I'll put it in inverted commas, transformed, they aren't prepared to meet the changes and demands. So what kind of advice would you give for businesses to prepare? And I'm gonna go back to you, Jurian, and then to get the corporate's view on it after to you, Ben. So Jurian, what advice would you give to help businesses prepare?
Yeah. So I have actually written down sort of 2 tips to give here. And I think the first one pretty much ties in exactly with what Ben was saying before, because this is something we see a lot with our customers if they start with this financial transformation process. So they move from a local accounting system, and those accounting systems tend to really focus on like one market or one specific country. And those systems can be really good in then automating some key processes for that specific market or region. And when companies move to sort of like a next level system, so like a global ERP system, sometimes that's even a bit of a step back, because those have focused much broader and they cannot reach that level of focused automation. So one of the tips I always give is don't take assumptions, like really put your requirements down, make it really clear what you need, check all of those points when you're looking at new systems. And the great thing is that usually, even if a system out of the box might not have that, then that's where partners like us come in to help with that. A second tip would be to sort of in every decision you make, think ahead and think of scalability. So a project example I would usually use there is of like I was on a project once where a company was focusing really on one market, and there was a very popular payment method in that market, and they wanted automation to be able to deal with the increase of volume they had. And they decided to build an integration with that one particular payment method. That took quite some time, quite some money, but got it done. It did save time. And then a couple months later, they decided to open up an additional market. And that payment method actually had zero spread in that market. So they would now have to build a complete new integration to the main payment method for that market, which led to the conclusion that actually there should be an integration with a payment service provider that supports all those payment methods for all the different countries. And had they realized that a little bit earlier in the journey, they could have just done that straight away. It would have been the same amount of time and effort to build the integration, but it would have given them that scalability. And I think that way of thinking, so always making sure you plan a bit ahead and you get solutions that can support also a next phase of growth, it's really important, and one of the main tips I would give.
Thank you, Jurian. And Ben, from a corporate's angle, what advice would you give to current corporates and enterprise businesses that are subscribing to this webinar and are kind of listening to you now? What, if you could go back, or what advice would you give through your experience?
Yeah, so thanks. I've got 2 key lessons learned. So the first one for us was that when you're embarking on one of these financial change projects, make sure that you allocate dedicated resource and focus towards that particular project. When we moved from Xero to NetSuite, we actually hired a dedicated finance project manager to come in and basically run the project for the duration of the implementation. That really helped us sort of minimize some of the disruption that comes with changing a finance system. I'm sure anyone who's done any sort of transformation like that knows that it has very far-reaching impacts across the company and affects many teams. So having someone to really go in there and own it at a top level and making sure everyone's accountable is really critical to ensure that you can actually complete it on time. And in addition, it sort of helped us not cause our finance team just doing their day-to-day jobs. They were able to continue doing that, so it didn't stop any key processes that they were doing. So yeah, that's my first sort of lesson. The second lesson is you sort of already touched on this already, Jurian, is like to get advice. So NetSuite, as an example, is a really extensive accounting system with so many features. It's like almost impossible to know like how to best apply all of them to your business. So we worked with a NetSuite implementation partner to get the system set up and the best practices for our business. Like in short, you basically want to get the advice of people who have done it before, so that you're not sort of fumbling through the dark and making your own mistakes. Learn from the people who have already made the mistakes and know how to deal with it in the most efficient way.
Thanks.
And yeah, I'd just say, sorry to cut you off, James, but by doing that and spending the time like up front to get the most out of the system and setting it up properly, then you're really like maximizing the return on investment, because these systems often aren't cheap. So you really want to make sure that you can get the best out of them.
Yeah, I was sorry to cut across you. I was going to add a point there where, in our experience, we can come in many different parts. We can come into a pre-financial transformation. We can be in the actual go live, which is always headless chicken running around, and then it can be post-implementation as well. Kind of our advice from a solutions provider would be the earlier you can get us into the conversations, whether it's the discovery phase, whether it's the actual choosing the ERP that you're working with. That's why we work so well with Jurian and his team, because they bring us into when they uncover potential requirements with their customers or their potential businesses. They bring us in very, very early. So we're the experts in the field of payments and cash management, and the two businesses really have a great synergy there. And to your point, Ben, that will then allow you as a corporate to get the best of breed technology and that return on investment that's really, really important. Because to your point, these systems aren't cheap. And when you've had that procured and you've had that signed off within the business, all eyes are on you to make sure it brings that efficiency and that benefit to the organization. So it has to work and it has to bring that return on investment. So thank you for that. I've got a couple of questions left for you both. One, I'm gonna send one to Jurian and one to Ben. So to you, Jurian, one of the main goals when it comes to financial transformation that we find as a business and within the industry is improved security and visibility, which we'd like to think is a given. But how does standardizing those internal processes work to address these, in your opinion?
Yeah, definitely. So indeed, like the overall security benefits of cloud, there are many. I'm probably not the best expert to address that, but when it comes to sort of standardizing processes, that's definitely something we aim to do, and we're big believers in the way that also can help with security. So the example I would usually give is if you look at the procure to pay process for our customers, like we have two apps that help in that process and that help by automating it, which makes it safer. So like if you look at bill entry within that process, putting the purchase invoice in the system, we build an OCR app that captures the data automatically and that uses rules and logic on how to process some of the data. So that takes away risk of people typing over the amount wrong or entering the wrong bank account on the vendor. So you already standardize, you take away human error. And within that same process, if you look at our banking solution, one of the things we do is facilitate sort of outgoing payment files from the ERP to the bank. That becomes a completely automated process. If you look at that being done manually, someone has to download a file, upload it to the bank. They can choose the wrong file. Technically, when that file lives on someone's computer, changes can be made into that file. So by taking away the human interaction there and automating those processes, you also drive the security of those processes.
Thank you, Jurian. Much appreciated on that. And just a couple of points to add before I pass over to Ben for a question. With this, especially with the security and visibility, what we tend to find, we've got a real-time cash visibility solution which enables organizations to kind of bring down their statements from their corresponding banks to understand where their cash position is within minutes. And with that, security is huge. So especially from the payment side as well. So to Ben's very earlier point, right at the start of the webinar, functionality is a huge part with the smaller ERPs then going on to the mainstream ERPs like NetSuite, because the functionalities don't match. So security becomes a huge issue. So we work with the likes of Zego, we work with FastFour's customers, helping them around those security issues. Things like multi-factor authentication, duplicate payments, and fraudulent activity as well. It's a much bigger beast when you're working with big ERP systems. So more things can potentially go wrong, but also it's a very, very complex system. So we really do work with organizations to give them that kind of helping hand around the security and risk issues that they kind of may have. Now, no further ado, Ben, just leading to the last question, and there has been a couple of questions that have come in whilst we've been talking, but to finish, and Jurian, if you've got any points to add at the end, if we've got time, that'd be great. But in your experience, Ben, how has moving to a cloud-based solution helped your financial transformation?
Yeah, so I think I kind of have 2 points here. Some of them kind of echo what you guys have already talked about, but I'll start with the first one, which is the visibility side of things for us. So I cannot imagine not having a cloud solution for our financial system. As a software and sort of remote first company, Zego has lots of workers throughout the globe in lots of different places. We're in Europe, we've got people in Israel, UK, and different parts of the UK. So having our systems in the cloud allows for these people to access and do their job basically anywhere at any time. We don't have to rely on internal business servers or desktop connections to hardware in the office. It's all up there, it's in the cloud, and it's maintained by the providers that we've purchased the systems off. So it also alleviates some of that risk on us as well. But overall, this kind of allows our employees to work when and where it suits them best, which allows them to sort of have a better quality of life. They have the maximum amount of flexibility they need, and it increases their productivity because they can work when and where it suits them best. I know we're sort of running out of time, but I will just touch on one sort of last point, which was the standardization or the efficiency side of things. And I think for us, one of the key ones is the whole bank reconciliation process. And where I've worked in at previous companies, I literally would be copying stuff from one screen, like in my banking portal, putting it in Excel and then typing it into our accounting system, which one, it's really slow, and two, there's a really high chance of human error doing that. But using the systems and tools that we've got now, that information just comes in through the cloud. It's sitting there ready in the morning for our accounts clerks to come in. They can just review a few things, tick it off, and then boom, that process is done. So it kind of takes something that could take a few hours down to 10 minutes and really mitigates the risk of errors as well.
Fantastic. Thanks for Ben. And what we've seen is obviously with the pandemic, with a lot of businesses having to then send their workers home and a lot of workers having to become remote, cloud-based solutions have to become part of working life. If you can't go into the office, you can't exactly bring a server to your home or working out of your kitchen. So we found a lot of businesses are moving from an on-premise solution to a cloud solution like NetSuite, you've just mentioned to yourself, and to kind of to the Access Pay solution as well. And we've got about 2.5 minutes left. So I've got one question for both of you, and hopefully we'll be able to finish. But one that's coming for you, Ben, kind of great piece of advice from your project. But if you were to repeat this financial project again, and I'm going to give you about a minute to answer this, is there anything you would do differently?
Sort of like finger in the air here, like I guess, or like touch wood is like, if I had unlimited budget, yes, I would do things differently. I think that's the kind of the key thing. It's always dependent on your resources and your budget constraints. But if I had more resources budget, I would hire or attach more resource to the project, because even though we had this dedicated finance project manager, there are still some things that we weren't able to fully optimize it and set up properly, and we didn't fully get time to ingrain some of the processes within our team and make it so that the team really understand the systems that they're using and how to get the best out of it. So again, I just throw more time and effort into the planning and the implementation and the actual rollout and making sure it's fully ingrained in the team when you go live.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Ben. I think everybody would like more resource and unlimited budget, especially salespeople. I think they'd love that, for businesses to come to them to say money's no object. And just to kind of finish, Jurian, to yourself, why? And again, I'm going to give you about 50 seconds here. Why do you think it's important that businesses consider a financial transformation project?
Okay, so in 50 seconds, maybe in 10 seconds, because sooner or later you will have to. Right. And I personally, I wouldn't want to discover that I should have done it while I'm being audited. So the needs of the business change, and your system and processes will need to scale with that. So it will come. And what I've seen, sort of the sooner you start that, the better. So at least every company should regularly be thinking of it and regularly reviewing of, hey, should I start this process, or what can I do to be ready for changes that will come?
Brilliant, thank you. And that leaves us with about a minute for myself here at Access Pay to say our thank yous to Ben and to Julian today for taking your time out of a very busy week. I know you guys are running around really, really hard at the moment, so thank you very much for that. Just for everybody who's on, this session has been recorded. This live stream again will be available on demand. So again, like I said earlier, please keep your eye on our LinkedIn channels over the next few days. We'll be sharing for those who haven't been able to join today. And please add us on LinkedIn. Reach out to myself, reach out to Julian, reach out to Ben. If you have more questions, if you want to get advice, or if you want to go into any deep dive what we've discussed before. But again, thank you for your time today, gentlemen. Thank you for everybody who's managed to join us. We've done this in about 29 minutes and 50 seconds. So I think timing has definitely been of the essence today. So I'd like to thank everybody again. Enjoy the rest of your days, and I look forward to welcoming you to another Financial Transformation Unlocked series in the not too distant future. Thank you.
Thank you for hosting, James. Take care.
No worries.